Howdy ho, friends and foes, and welcome to Dad's on Life, your weekly episodic show about parenting from a male perspective. I am your host, Jay Miles, and with me, as always, are my co-hosts, Keith Bogan,
Yo.
Doug Hamadike,
Hey.
Chad Holloway,
Hello.
and our newest contributor, Vince Quartararo.
How's it going?
Today, we're going to be talking about Through the Eyes of a Child. Came up with this idea. It's been kicking around in my head for a couple of months now. Basically, we're going to be telling stories about instances where we have seen an event, a happening, whatever you want to call it, through our children's eyes. It'll explain itself once we get into the stories. And of course, maybe go into some of the stuff where our parents may have seen the same exact thing through our eyes. Who'd like to kick us off? As Keith looks the other way.
I'm still trying to get my phone set up so you're not staring at a ceiling.
Should I start humming the Jeopardy theme?
Jason, your kids are the youngest in this group. You've had the most recent experience seeing the awe and wonder of life through the eyes of a little child. So I think you should start us off.
Well, easy enough. I'll start with two instances 2 years ago at Disney. The first one being witnessing the look on Sadie's face as we went through Tower of Terror. It was, and then I mean they're seeing the images of the look on her face of the when you know she realized where she was and it dropped and things like that. Very unique observation to just see it. Literally, she's about that far off the seat and it dropped. And for Delana, it's pretty easy. Same day. We skipped it as a family, but Delana and I were able to get on the Aerosmith Rock and Roller Coaster. Elise and I had gone on it earlier in the day, and then Delana really wanted to go, and Elise said take her. So I said, okay. So I took her. We stood in line for a little bit. I was having a conversation with him, with Keith, while we were standing there. And I think about 15 minutes later, with what said 75 minutes, 15 minutes later, we were downstairs and about to get on the ride. Well, the initial fact that it goes from 0 to 100 in the first stretch gave Delana a similar look of, oh my Lord, what am I doing? As Sadie had when she went on Tower of Terror. A rougher observation was we went to Epcot, where and went on, I believe it was Mission Space. That's the one where you're laid back and it's kind of virtual reality and you land on the Mars or something like that. My two kids, my wife and my mother-in-law, all had to take an hour and a half break after it because of the ride itself, because they didn't like the virtual reality part of it. I walked around, probably had 3 different things to eat, and then went back and sat down with them, and then got up and went on another ride. I was the only one who the G-force of the ride didn't have a problem with it. There's another example of from last year with Delana. It's something that I'll never forget. And it's the awe factor that hit her from going to WrestleMania last year. It hit her like I remember. I had been to. That was the second one I had been to in Toronto. I remember that impact on me, and I was able to see that same impact. She was too young. She wasn't not even 2 or just 2 when 29 happened. This year, she was able to go with me. Actually, while we were in the parking lot, there was a wrestler by the name of Paige who came around on a golf cart. I didn't realize she was holding a GoPro and taking video of the crowd. I'll post the video later, but there's a shot of me, Delana, my friend, and her son as Paige goes by us. But WrestleMania last year was incredible. The look on her face, the pageantry, and she didn't like the explosions, but the image, the view, and the images, and seeing the wrestlers up close. She'd met a couple of them at that point, but really seeing what an event was like. We had been to NXT, but nothing like WrestleMania. Twice we've been to NXT, and she liked that. But this was something else entirely, like she's never seen. Unfortunately, the one thing that I will say was the one person that I really wanted to see was The Undertaker. He wasn't there. So fast forward about 2 months, I said, okay, we had to leave WrestleMania early because Delana got sick. She wasn't feeling good. She had a migraine. We had to leave. So I said, I want to make it up to her. So actually, Lance and another friend of mine told me that they were originally going to go to a show in Wilkesboro, but decided to go the week before to a show in Philadelphia. Okay, so I got tickets on eBay for a pretty decent price, actually. And 2 weeks before that, Shane McMahon climbs the ropes to go hit Roman Reigns with a drop kick, the coast to coast, and the lights go out and the gong hits. The lights come back up, and there's The Undertaker standing in front of Shane McMahon. Shane jumps down, gets chokeslammed, and now it's obvious that The Undertaker is going to be involved in the match with Roman Reigns, which I had literally just gotten tickets for Extreme Rules. The first match on the card is The Undertaker and Roman Reigns against Drew McIntyre and Shane McMahon. So that I wish she saw that happened 3 months later. Of getting, granted, it wasn't MetLife and it was a different intro, but it was still a true Undertaker intro when he came out. So they both have seen things, and now I mean, there's 2 coming up that I would say they're looking forward to. One of them will be my in-laws won a free night in the new Cartoon Network hotel out in Lancaster, and then the eventual trip to first probably the store in New York and then down to Universal for Harry Potter, the Harry Potter stuff, which my 9-year-old is completely obsessed with and asks questions all the time about the characters, about the movie, and reading the books and saying we got to see Fantastical Beasts because things will make more sense. And okay, it's just great to see that kind of love of something that she has for Harry Potter right now. So it's good to see them to love something like that.
I got to ask you the question, Jason.
Yes.
Obviously, all the stuff about wrestling, you led them down that path. You showed them your world, and
Yes.
they bought into it. Did that happen with Harry Potter, or did they discover that on their own and just become obsessed with it?
Elena did not want to see the movies at all. Elise went through the entire Star Wars series during COVID in March. and then saw that they were all free on Peacock, only till the end of October. So we plowed through all 8 movies. And Elena finally sat down and said, okay, darn it, I'll watch it. And sat there, and after the first movie, that was it. She was hooked. Constant questions about Harry Potter. So she didn't want to, was pretty much forced to, but enjoyed the hell out of it. So
Yeah, the reason I asked the question is because it's fascinating. I mean, I went through the same experience, not wrestling or anything, but there were things that my boys, Justin and Jeremy, watched that I was interested in and became interested in because of me or because of their mother. And then they became, I wouldn't say obsessed, but you got to watch through their eyes as their interest level grew and their connection to it grew. But the first story that comes to mind for me is Justin. It was 2015, so it was only like 5 years ago. And Justin grew up a baseball freak, like absolutely addicted to the sport, knows everything about every player and all that stuff, just the way I was when I was his age. And we put together this trip to go on what wound up being a 4,700-mile drive over 10 days in the summer of 2015. 13 different professional teams. 8 of them were minor league and 5 of them were major league throughout the Midwest. But the reason I bring up the story is because that the way he structured the trip, there were 2 days in the middle of it, there were no games. I said to Justin, well, what are we doing those 2 days? He's like, oh, a friend of mine's performing in some band in Indianapolis. And I want to stop by there if you don't mind and go see his show. I had no idea. Now I knew that Justin was in the marching band in high school. At that point, he was a sophomore. I knew he was in the marching band, but I didn't know anything more. Boy, did I get bamboozled. He set that whole trip up so that we could go to the World Championships of Drum Corps International. And he built this whole baseball thing around it to make sure that I would take him on the whole trip because he knew I was freaked about baseball. And that was, we get to the Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. And when I talk about seeing life through the eyes of your child, the absolutely sitting in stands and him being totally mesmerized by everything that was going on in the field. And I suddenly learned that he had this tremendous passion that was front and center of his life. It was nothing more important than that, even sports. To watch him just be enthralled beyond imagination. And this is something that neither his mother or I had led him to. He had discovered he wanted to play trumpet in 4th grade, and he started practicing and all that. And he got into high school marching band. Mom and I, no musical talent whatsoever, so it really wasn't us. But we encouraged him because he seemed to like it. And then it just became this thing that now he travels with the drum corps he wanted to go see, and he performs world-class shows all over the United States and all that. Watching through his eyes as all that developed right in front of me was just, I learned more from him, I think, at that point than he ever learned from me.
Right.
So it's very interesting as they get older. There are some things that you watch because you never stop watching through their eyes. And he was 16 at the time. So watching his whole world suddenly grow enormously, because then that was when he first got to see drum corps in person, but not having anything to do with setting it up other than being the wheels that got him there. It wasn't something I didn't, I tried to teach him about Billy Joel and Jimmy Buffett when he was a little kid, and baseball and all that, and that really worked, but that was all him. And it became all his brother too. The two of them became very obsessed with it, through no direction by his parents at all. Very different through the eyes of the child experience, if you will.
I've got one too with Frankie when he was younger. This is probably 15 years ago. I'm guessing he was 5 or 6 at the time. And I was dating my second wife at the time. And we actually might have been living together, but we'd go over and spend the night with them. It's about 45-minute drives. We spent a lot of time on the road going back and forth between St. Louis and where I live. And so one day we were coming back in the morning so I could get him to school. And there was a car next to us, and I hear Frank in the background, and he's still sitting in his booster seat and everything. He goes, Dad, he says, I think, does this guy know you? He says, I think he's waving at you. So I'm like going, what, on the road. And I turn around and look, and the guy's giving me the middle finger. Right. So, but Frankie's in the back saying he's waving at you. So there must've been something that happened on the road, but I just don't even pay attention to that. So the guy pulls up, and I just point to my son and give him the thumbs up, give him the thumbs up, like, yeah, do whatever. I'm not going to engage in this, with my 6-year-old in the car here. But it's just funny seeing this guy so angry, flipping me off, and Frankie's like, "Oh, is this your friend?" It's the rose-colored glasses. It's the innocence of that time.
Wait, Chad, what did you do to inspire the salute?
I do not know. But because I don't engage in that stuff anymore. Any type of road antics. After 25, I can't control anybody, so I just wave them on. I hear you. Flip me off. That makes you feel better. See you later. But so that was a funny one. And there was another time when he was probably 10 or 12, and he played soccer from the time he was probably 4 years old, and was real good. Had a real solid left foot. He was a defender for the most part. But I remember one time they were playing a game, and he comes up literally to midfield and boots a goal with his left foot, and it just zings right in the net. And I remember seeing him like turn around and come back and like look at the parents with his hands clenched and his looking, and you could just tell like his eyes were so big and so wide open. It was just like such an awesome experience, because I can really relate to that, when that happened, because it was a hell of a goal, and it was a hell of a goal for a kid, to be able to do that. So that was a super experience for him and for me. Everybody I think felt real good after that happened. Some good stuff.
I was gonna say for us, I just mean that we're all rolling through tons of emotions and stuff here. The anticipation of Christmas, the joy of going to an amusement park, and the smells and sights and sounds. And for us, it's lately a lot about freedom and becoming an adult. Seeing Brendan as he gets older, when his challenges and his ideas in his head of freedom, and relating it back to like when we were kids, and being able to do our first babysitting and all. But one of the other things that I was just like thinking about was like for more recently was like one of the things where in hindsight I had to go back and think about it, because my wife took an awesome picture of Brendan at his first communion and sitting there outside the confessional waiting his turn, and there was actually rays of light coming down through the stained glass, shining on Brendan as he like stood there with anticipation and fear of like, am I going to remember everything? And I've experienced the same thing more recently, becoming Catholic for the first time and going through my first confessional, and having the same jitters of that at all. And we've also discussed like after that, just the relief and knowing that you're in the presence of God, and that how everything changes after you've gotten through the confession and the priest and talking to him and explaining to him some of your most deepest things that you've done, and then coming out renewed as like a new person, and feeling all those things like not too long after that, like he actually went through. And every time I see that picture now, it makes me think about my first confession, which wasn't too long ago. It was only a couple months, and that was the really interesting thing. I thought that we both shared at nearly the same time, let's say, but yeah, I mean, we all have like tons of stories of like amusement parks and things like that, and maybe I'll bring up another one after Vince gets to tell a story.
It's coincidence that you bring up confession, because that was one of the first things I was jotting down here as trying to pull out the files from the filing cabinet upstairs. There is I still remember Michael's first Holy Communion and first reconciliation, and yeah, you know, seeing him with all the trepidation and the fear, and you know, kind of like sweating bullets, but then after receiving absolution, just this sheer, you know, grin that went from ear to ear, and but even more was the first 100 people that Michael met, strangers, you know, at stores and parking lots. Everybody, you know, asking him how you doing, how's your day, and he's like, I received my first confession, and he's like, you know, and he's, you know, like just going out and just preaching, and these strangers, you know, I remember seeing that, not only seeing the enthusiasm, seeing everything that's going on with Michael, but then also seeing the strangers, you know, like their hearts almost kind of melt, because they're like, that took me by surprise. You know, it's not something you hear, especially coming from at that time, you know, a 7-8-year-old child and everything like that. So you know, there's definitely that, and witnessing that, and being able to see him feel that experience, and kind of also, you know, reminds me of like, oh yeah, that's how it's supposed to be, you know, that's how you're supposed to feel. But also other things too was, you know, being able to see his amazement and his sense of wonder and awe in hiking and nature and animals, you know, all the different things that, you know, as we've grown older, we still have moments where like, wow, that's a fantastic sunset, or, you know, I got to get a picture of that. But with him, it's like every moment he's like, that is beautiful, that is amazing, you know. And it could be the simplest thing. It could be like a dandelion, you know, a weed that we're like, get that thing out of my yard, and he's like, it's beautiful, you know, and see the bee that's on top of it. So just that so pure awe and wonder, you know, that he has, is such a joy and a blessing to me, because it kind of takes away all the years of maturity, in a sense of like taking things for granted. It's like, I've seen that tree, I've lived here for 20 years, I've lived there for 10 years, there's nothing new here, nothing to be awed and inspired from, you know. Kind of like for somebody who's like, if they've been working in the Empire State Building all their life, you know, more than likely they just kind of walk in and it's like, yeah, take me up to the whatever floor. Whereas the new guy coming from Nebraska is like, damn, you know, so it's like, you know, being able to witness his awe and amazement on such a simple, and yet at the same time, they really are, you know, such intricate things. And then a couple years ago, Philadelphia, or the Greater Expo in Philadelphia, whatever it's called, had Brickfest. And Michael loves Legos. And I heard about this Brickfest thing, and they had all different displays, and they had like kiddie pools of just bricks. And so we got the tickets, we went down. And I think that was probably one of the best things. I didn't know it at the time, but one of the best things I could have done for him, because it just opened up his mind to like, you know, it opened up my mind too. It's like, I remember playing with Legos, sure, but it was like, here's a little house, you know, here's this little car, you know, seeing all these different creations, from robotics to mechanized vehicles to, you know, pool table sized displays of thousands of things that look exactly like movie scenes, you know, and being able to have him there though to experience it was, you know, was just awesome, because again, it goes back to seeing his face just like, you know, boom, jaw drop, tongues rolling out, eyes are like, I can't believe this isn't real, there's no way this exists. And then taking it all in, you know, is always so awesome. You know, and the other another thing too that my son, you know, it's kind of that double blessing, where is seeing the amount of compassion and forgiveness that he has for really almost anybody. where it's like, again, we talk about the thing, oh, we're going through life and, oh, he's just so innocent, no, we shouldn't be able to forgive that guy. And he'll come up to me when he sees my head on fire and I'm just like, no, this person needs, whatever. And he's just like, Daddy, that's not right. We still got to love him. We still got to forgive him. He's like, yeah, it's just like, I look at him and I'm thinking like, you little, but if there's like, I have the second thought, I'm like, you're absolutely right. I mean, really, if I sit here and argue with you, it's not really much of an argument because you're right. So being able to see that too, again, is just such a reward back to me, where it's like, there's another reason why it's called to be have a father, and we were blessed to have him. It's like, just as I'm teaching him, he's teaching me, and being able to relive and remember having that sense of amazement, that sense of wonder, and it helps to remind us to not take things for granted and to really be living life rather than just existing in this life.
It seems like which ironically, we're just coming off Thanksgiving. It seems like that brings a level of gratitude as well. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Actually, speaking of Thanksgiving, after we all sat down and we're at the table, and we did a special grace and everything, like everybody at the table was, I was ready to start serving, and everybody else is like, all right, let's dig in. And Michael is like, excuse me, sitting at the one end, he's like, excuse me, can I say what I'm thankful for? Now, mind you, us saying what we're thankful for really hasn't, it was a tradition when I grew up, but it hasn't really been a tradition in our house. But again, here's Michael, already his wheels moving a mile a minute. He's like, can I say what I'm thankful for? And then he goes into, family, and he goes into the food and the house and his cats, et cetera, et cetera. But it's like, everybody else is just like, oh, okay, Grace is done. Let's eat. I'm starving. And he's like, excuse me. He's like that little quiet voice of reason and bringing people back down, where it's like, hey, wait a second. So it was really awesome. But yeah, definitely the gratitude is definitely in there, and being grateful for all the different moments and such.
It's very interesting you say that, Vince, because the religion's very different here. So it's we haven't even had our Thanksgiving dinner yet because we haven't been all together yet. But when we do, I've been moaning for years that nobody in this country really remembers what the holiday's about. They just look at it as a 4-day weekend when they don't have to go to work. And I could get up on my soapbox and pontificate about that for long after the show's over. But it's the kids who, not what they do, but what I want them to realize, to experience, to be able to see. I don't want them to see that everybody just wants to sit down and attack the food and it's just about gluttonous eating. And I think they're struggling with it because they're affected by society, if you will. So it's not even an important holiday to us because we don't see the value in it. But it sort of harkens back to the idea of when we're together, we're celebrating a holiday just because we're together. It has nothing to do with what Madison Avenue dictates. And in this house, we kind of view Thanksgiving as becoming a Madison Avenue creation because people are thankful. So I think you said it very well, because it's them who reminds me of why I should stop and observe something for this Thanksgiving holiday rather than ignore it. It's actually easy for me to do it because even though I have lots to be thankful for, I just don't see a lot of people around me feeling the same way. So yeah, they do ground me in that way. So whether I'm seeing it through their eyes or I want to see through their eyes, it's their influence that helps ground me. and remind me of what we should be doing.
Right.
I was just saying that we're going through a lot of changes and seeing a lot of different things, with Brendan, and it reminds me of a lot of things, and my wife as well. With him becoming, a little bit older now and being able to stay home and being able to, kind of babysit his brother, and the freedom there that he experiences is a cool thing. Just seeing how proud he is, like, because we were going down to York, like I was saying, over the weekend, and he wanted to go, but at the same time, he wanted to stay home and watch his brother. And, the whole idea of, making sure that, that his brother was safe, with what they were doing, and in at a pleasant time, and getting ready for bed, and all that stuff, and responsibility and stuff. And I just remember, the same similar things, with me and my brother and stuff. And it's just like a cool thing to see him, coming of age, and just the freedom that he's experienced and the responsibility and stuff. And, what goes along with that, we've already caught him with a neighbor in the house, which was not a thing that should happen again. And we'll see how it goes. But we thought that was a little soon to already have a neighbor in the house. But it's a whole new world for us, as having a teenager in the house.
What do you mean a neighbor in the house? A girl?
No, well, I'm surprised that's probably not too far down the road. But no, our next door neighbor, they had them in and they were playing video games.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
Get a lot worse.
That's a great. I didn't think about that one actually, but now that you said it,
Yeah, that's the more dangerous one if it were a female in the house, I think. And talking about freedom, I remember when Frankie would stay by himself in the beginning, and he was probably a little younger when I let him stay by himself, but I would just kind of test him. He's always been pretty responsible. So probably at 8 years old, I said, "Hey, I'm going to leave you in the house here alone. I got to go run an errand." But it was the very first time. So he was in the house and I explained to him, gave him you're the boss and here's, call me if anything happens. And it was kind of a test run, right? But basically all I did, I didn't have to do anything. I just wanted him to have that confidence that he could stay there by himself. So I just left him in the house, got in my car, drove around the block. It was less than 5 or 10 minutes, came back and said, "Hey, you did it." And I just remember seeing how proud he was that he was able to stay there and he was able to keep things under control in the house for those 10 minutes, So then when I go for 20 minutes or I'm to the store to grab something, it's not a big deal. And Doug, to your point, at that time, he was really playing video games a lot. So he wouldn't even notice if I left. He would be so enthralled in the video games, right? But now it's interesting now because now he's 20, he's a sophomore in college. And we've got this thing called Life 360, so we can see where everybody is. And I think we may have talked about this last time a little bit, but it's in high school, it had a different role, right? Because I did want to know where he was and what he was up to. And, I had a little tighter control. Now it's more of a safety thing. And so, he I think has a little concern at times that dad's monitoring him. But I'm like, Frankie, you are a man now. You can go wherever you want. I don't care. The thing I want is to make sure you get good grades and you're not hurting yourself in some way or doing something you're not supposed to, but that's a very flexible thing. Now I understand what college life is all about. So have a good time. And I'm not here monitoring you. It's just in case something happens or you lose your phone, we'll know where it is. Or, if I can't track you down, I just like to be able to find you. Not that I ever really use it, but it's interesting just like seeing him thinking I want to monitor him, but I don't. I mean, it's like you do what you want. You're a man now, but let's just do this for safety. I mean, my mom's on it as well, so she can see where I am when I can see where she is, and she's actually put a few of her friends on. So every once in a while, I get a low battery notification from one of my mom's 75-year-old friends. So and so's battery is low. It's just funny because just kind of a safety thing more than anything else. But just seeing that transition from staying for 5 minutes and being real proud of that to now kind of trying to understand, hey, you are on your own, whether you think that or not. This is not something where I'm keeping tabs on you. It's just something that if something comes up, I'll know where you are. Same with me. You'll know where I am.
Going on that with the, you're safe. You are where you are. You know where I'm at. It reminded me of a couple times that Michael and I went out to the woods, whether it was here locally, Jacobsburg or Jim Thorpe, or over in Washington, New Jersey. More specifically, the one time we went to go build a survival shelter, and we're hiking and trying to find a nice spot to build this. And we're just going, and he's like, well, I need a break. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, we could take a break. But I was like so focused kind of like on timing and everything. And I'm like, no, we got to keep going. So I'm like, well, Mike, all right, you sit here, and I'm just going to keep hiking, and I'll go see if we have a spot soon. And I probably only hiked maybe a couple hundred yards, but it was one of those where it was almost like training, because for me, where we were, I know there's actually a good amount of bears, as well as coyotes and a decent thing of snakes, but really none of the snakes over there are poisonous. So I had the rifle, he had his knife and gear, we both had our sacks. But so it was kind of, it was interesting, because like I hiked a couple hundred yards on, and I'm thinking about him, but also telling myself like, hey, he'll be all right. And I'm sure he was probably thinking about me. But so I went on, I found the spot, I started working, and it had to have been at least a half hour went by. All of a sudden I hear in the distance, like, him yelling out for me, like, where are you? I just yelled back, I'm like, I'm over here. It's like, even though over here is in the middle of nowhere, and just come down here. I think I found us a spot. Yeah, a couple, a minute or two go by, and I hear him, coming down the woods, and we met up. I asked him, I was like, well, what have you been up to this time? He's like, well, I had some water, and then I started carving. He showed me this spearhead he made from a stick. And he made another one where he was like, well, this we can use to use as a stake and everything, and we could use that. So I was like, it was great, because it was, like I said, it was one of those where we were both kind of training each other to be okay away from each other, but also with the assurance of knowing, hey, just shout, just give a call, and we're there. And it turned out to be a great day. Like I said, he was real tired. We were hiking a good while to find this area, and he worked his little butt off, but making this shelter, and rubber, getting different wood and branches and stuff. But again, that tied into later on too, his amazement and his wonder, and then his questioning. He's like, well, how come we're not chopping down these trees? And I'm like, well, because those trees are perfectly fine, we're just practicing, we're just doing a shelter. And he's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So there was this, my focus that day was like, all right, we're just gonna go build a shelter, make a fire, eat lunch, go home. Okay, got the time off, we could do this. And we go there, and it started looking like, we're never even going to get this thing done. I don't know what we're doing here. I got nothing in my mind but like just go. And he's like asking me a million questions. I'm getting frustrated. And thank God he took a break and I went on, because that's where we end up learning at least the first lesson that day. And then because of that, we were both able to kind of reground ourselves and have this amazing, amazing time out there, and different questions and learning, and we never had a bear come around. So that was good. We did have a couple deer and some rabbits, and let all of them go. We had we ended up making barf bag omelets, the Chris and the survival encampment there. But
What the hell is a barf bag omelet?
so a barf bag omelet is you take a Ziploc bag, and before you go anywhere, you take a Ziploc bag and you crack your eggs in there. Whatever else you want in there, you can throw your ham in there, your cheese in there, your peppers, your onions, your salt, pepper, etc. Whatever you want to have in that omelet, you throw it in there. You mush the bag all up so it's ready to go. You put that in your sack, and make sure you have a pot, or a pan. Preferably, what we do is take the whole bag, put it in boiling water, and then you just have it in the boiling water. It cooks the entire omelet. Open up the bag, eat it right out of the bag. Take the bag, either melt it or put it in a bag and hike it back out with you, throw it out, or open up the bag, discard all its contents into a frying pan, and there you go. And then that way you could have fresh eggs even if you're trekking a couple miles out. So
Sounds
that
interesting.
is a barf bag omelet.
You remind me of trash can salad, trash bag salad, excuse me, that the boys learned about in their drum corps travels, where there are people who are preparing food, literally are preparing for 150 performers plus 25, 30, 35 adult volunteers who help run the stuff. So that's a lot of salad. So they
Yes.
literally, just like what you described, they take all the ingredients, they dump them in several large, 33-gallon hefty bags. They shake them up, they carry it on the bus, and when we stop for our meal, that they just divvy it up. It travels like that, so it became known as trash bag salad.
Pretty
Trust
cool.
me, to them it was perfectly fine. To me, when I first heard that, I wanted to run the other way, just like when you said barf bag, whatever. I'm like, God, that was a really nasty vision, but I get it now.
Well, I mean, I'll talk about this quick. One of Sadie's favorite, actually, probably Sadie's favorite thing that I make is called slop. What is elbows, tomatoes, soup, and shot meat.
Nice.
You mix it together, put a little butter in it, and that's it. So I mean, yeah, I know. It's some things have some very strange names, and they end up being pretty good. It's funny you mentioned about the Life 360 thing. Happened this Friday to me. I decided to go get Elisa's Christmas present, which I might actually go get the rest for Christmas present in a little bit if I can get out of here quietly and not have her catch me on Life 360 again. But I didn't turn my phone off. I took out cash at the bank, but in my infinite wisdom, forgot to turn my phone off. So she texted her mother and said, "What's Jay doing at Falls Outlets?" Mother goes, "I don't know. I have no idea," knowing the whole time exactly what I was doing. I went to go get her. She, a couple of weeks ago, when Kamala Harris was elected vice president, she mentioned that she liked the fact that Kamala wears those low top black Converse. Maybe I should get a pair. Okay.
Little hints.
So went and got them for her, and she caught me at the outlets, and I got home, and but funny thing is, I go in Converse, and they had a deal that was buy one get one 75 off. Hers had a white tag, and the ones that I saw didn't, which I liked. I'm like, ooh, a pair of gray leather Converse for $100. So I said, you know what? It's Christmas. Screw it. I just bought a pair of Converse a couple weeks ago. Screw it. I'm gonna buy them anyway. So hold on one second. Hello? We might. We probably will. Yeah, I'll come down and get some in a little bit. Okay, all right, bye. Yep, bye. What was I saying? The Converse. Dad's on life. That was my mother, by the way. So I said, screw it. I'm going to buy myself the Converse. Get to the register, put them on the thing. See that 2 pairs of sneakers rang up $74. Holy shit. I just paid $25 for $100 sneakers. Put it in a bag. I go home, get home, and I start telling my wife about the deal, and then she realizes where I went. So I said, okay. Went downstairs and dug hers out and said, here you go. She's like, you actually listened to me. I said, I always listen to you. I just, sometimes I don't compute that I'm listening to you. But in this case, yeah, I listen to you.
Okay.
Okay. So, yeah, she caught me at the outlets, and then she's like, yeah, I texted my mother and said, what the hell is he doing at the outlets? I'm like, oh, God damn it, I knew I should shut the phone off.
That's funny.
But yeah, I mean, so if you want a good deal on sneakers,
Oh, Lord.
but no, yeah, I mean, like I said, the whole gratitude thing obviously has become a pretty big focus of the last couple of days. I know that I've had, we shared at Thanksgiving what we're thankful for as well. We actually did go around the table and do it. We usually don't, but
Good job.
Elena said something or Sadie said something, and we did. It was real quick, and then we ate, and we're still eating. Still eating oyster stuffing at this point, 4 days later. Yeah, I, especially coming from where I've been over the last 6 months, there's a lot to be thankful for, grateful for, whatever word you want to use at this time. And every day there's more. So I completely understand that. Again, Thanksgiving morning, I said, I had to go to Acme for something because, damn, I forgot something to do with the turkey and something for the stuffing. So I ran to Acme and then went, you know what? And bought 2 peppermint mochas, one for Elise and one for me. And she had the biggest smile on her face when I brought her the peppermint mocha. And I started to realize that everybody does these big, grandiose things for their loved ones, and it's the little things that actually mean the most. So that's something that's hit me a couple times this week. So,
You know what else is nice to do is if I go through Starbucks or something like that, is usually on a Monday, because that's the hard day, right? I'll say, hey, how much is this guy's bill behind me? If they say it's like $5, I'm like, okay, I got his too. So then I buzz out of there because I don't want them to know who it is. I just want them to start Monday off with a free cup of coffee and a donut or whatever it is that they're getting, and not know who got it. And it creates a good mood,
pay it forward. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, and one of the things too, I think, as Vince was talking about and Doug as well, in terms of independence of the kids and kind of taking on becoming their own people, right? I remember the first time that Frankie went to stay with overnight camp, right? That's for like 4 or 5 days. And we went there and it's like all this, basically where he stayed was like it had bunk beds, like 6 or 8 bunk beds with a roof over it in the middle of the woods. That was it. No walls. And it was like literally in the open, in the woods. They had a giant lake there, which, that concerned me. He's a very good swimmer, but at the same time, and there's all these cliffs and they're like, whoa, they'll be climbing here and they'll be doing this and all these activities that as a kid, I never had a concern with, but as a parent, man, I was totally concerned. And so we dropped him off and, kind of crossed our fingers, and their whole rules were You don't call the kids because that'll make them homesick. If you call them this first night, or if you call them and talk to them,
Yep.
they'll be homesick and they'll want to come home, and it creates a problem for everybody. So they said, if there's a problem, we'll call you. But what went through my head was all these like negative things, and I was very concerned, did not call. And his mom, I think, was the same way. We were both just real worried about it. But from his perspective, he was having a blast. They were doing all this stuff. They went on hikes. When he came back and was telling us, there wasn't 1 ounce of worry in his mind. He was totally independent when he was there, and he really enjoyed himself to the point where I think his mom just threw away the clothes that he wore instead of washing them. They were so dirty.
Yeah.
Just got rid of them, just threw them away. But that's like a big difference in terms of independence at my house, where I have control and I understand what's going on there, and I may be gone for a little bit, but he's in my domain versus sending him somewhere else where other people have control, where he's literally in much more control over his own choices and decisions and what he does. And it's scary, now obviously, I mean, we've come a long way, but that was kind of the first time when he spent the night, I don't want to say unsupervised, but with much less supervision than usual. And I think that was in 5th grade. So, but it was still a great experience. And I still remember, it's like, you want to let go and you want to trust your kid, but at the same time, it's your kid.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I could understand that that trepidation, where it's like, yeah, you want to have that Life 360 app, and you want to have that phone call on the first night, because you're like, well, I know he's a good hiker, but did he slip on that one rock? All right, or I know he's a good swimmer, but did he push himself too far because of his friends? So
Yep.
like I could totally see where your heart's pounding, and just in patient hope that he's going to be all right, and trust that he's going to be all right. And then, but I could also, have an idea though of at the end of that, when you see him come back a totally new boy,
Yep.
that had to have melted your heart. And also at the same time, it just, that's something that's going to stick with you forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was painful. It was stressful for you, and I'm sure for him too. But making it through all that with hope and trust and everything else, and being able to witness that, the other side of that, the
Yeah.
fruition, if you will, that is an awesome blessing. Yeah.
It was definitely a big growth moment, but I look back on the things that I did. My dad had a farm, and I was there with my cousins, and we literally would be barefoot, just maybe a pair of pants on, no shirts, no helmets, zipping through the woods, not on paths, zipping literally through the woods on motorcycles. And we just engaged in so much dangerous activity. But, back then it was just like, oh, it's just farm activity. But we had a real good time doing what we did. And, I know sometimes I have to laugh looking back at some of this crazy stuff we did, but, I wasn't worried ever when I was growing up, but, it's a lot different when when the kid is mine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. When I'm on the other side.
Well, you bring up, you just made me remember rather, I remember I was blessed with being able to hunt and hike my grandfather's farm growing up. And so I was a kid at the very least my son's age, 9 years old. And I've been around rifles and stuff like that all my life. So my dad taught me proper safety and everything. But it was roughly 96 to 110 acres in Pattenberg of just pure awesomeness, and it's like we'd pull up and my dad would be like, all right, I got to go help your grandfather unload the trailer. Why don't you help us with this and this? And then after that, grab your rifle and have at it,
Yep.
And as a kid, I was just like, all right, yeah, let's get through the work and see you later. All right, I'm gonna go hunt T-Rexes, or usually it was squirrels in glass bottles that somebody else dumped throughout the woods 50 years ago, But now that I'm the father, I look, I'm thinking like, yeah, is even with hiking, sometimes I'll watch Michael and I got to stop myself. I got to be like, I become like super aware of the rocks he's stepping on and climbing over. And I'm like, my heart is skipping a beat, like something out of Tiny Toons. But then I think about it where it's like, I did that and 10 times more usually when my dad couldn't even see me. And I was just thinking, like, I gotta I gotta step back. And I just gotta be ready to, if it does happen, just react. But that's hard. That's hard.
Yeah.
Like you said, as a kid, we were just like, we're living
Yep.
it, we're enjoying it. But now being on the father part, it's like, how many heart attacks did I go through today? 5, 6.
Yeah.
What did I make it through?
Yeah, and literally that's what we had too. We were hunting at an early age, and we were on our own all day, and a lot of times all night. And the only time we would have to go up to the house is whenever there was a meal ready. My aunt would walk out to the giant bell, and she would ring this bell that we could hear over the farm, and we'd hear the bell. We'd be like, okay, they want us back at the house, and then we'd just hoof it back to the house.
Nice.
But yeah, it's a lot different being the kid
Being
versus
on the other side. Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I was gonna say just a little bit different movement here. Also, my kids, and I was talking about anxiousness, anticipation, joyousness, and the times that we see pure joy in them. And when we think about to our being kids ourselves, times of pure joy. We grew up where my parents loved to take us to amusement parks, and we grew up around amusement parks and going to Keensburg every Friday night for, all the rides you could ride between 6 and 9 for a couple dollars. I mean, it was 5 and then it was 10, but still you could ride all the rides, and getting that hot dog and the smells and anticipation, and my parents every year, once a year, made sure that we went to Wildwood, and just pulling up there and starting to smell the salt water as you come around and seeing that Ferris wheel from the parkway, and then getting in your hotel and not being able to get to the boardwalk that night, but the next morning, your parents are going to hike you up there for the water park, and then, the rides all day and all that stuff. And then taking my kids, for us around here, we got my parents for a Christmas present one year got a season passes for Journey Park and taking them there for the first time. And before you couldn't, you could still bring a phone onto a roller coaster. I actually have video of like Colin like on the old wood roller coaster there, and just his face and excitement, going up and going through all the motions, and remembering us just, me and my brother like being, so excited, like I said, of everything that you witness when you go to a boardwalk is just amazing. Jason had similar stories about going to amusement parks as well.
Mhm.
And yeah, just a couple of the rides I was able to bring the camera, and I had it just play so it's like kind of focus on his face and just seeing excitement and the unnervingness of going up to the edge of a roller coaster drop and stuff, and it's just good stuff. But yeah, just before we all go, I was also saying I just was like thinking, because like my next door neighbor is up there, he's putting the lights up, and he's up on the roof and he's going around this like old Victorian, it's a 3-family house. I mean, it's got a big wraparound porch and turret and all that stuff on it. And why is he out there doing it? He's doing it because, tonight he's going to get his family out there as we've done. And, they're going to put on those lights, just like Clark Griswold, they're not twinkling. And just to see your kids, know that you care, and to see them, like happy that that you took the time to put on these lights and stuff. And that's why we're out there when we do it, dads, just to see them, because we usually go across the street to our neighbor's yard, as I turn on the lights, and everything pops up and all the lights go on, up through our house and stuff, and just to experience it with the family, just, the happiness that Christmas lights could bring, and decorating,
You guys ever go back to your parents and ask them what they saw in your eyes when you experienced all these things as a kid?
No, I haven't, but I mean, like I said, my parents are happy that we still go to Wildwood every year, like, we did with them. So, but
May I recommend, since you guys have the opportunity to do it, that you should
Sure.
exactly that.
Yeah. That yeah, that's something that we can bring back up.
You basically create your own mini shows privately with them to hear their thoughts on what they saw through you.
We can bring that back. That's something we definitely can revisit with this just being the beginning of the holiday season. I have a feeling this is going to be a continuing topic, and I think this is actually probably a pretty good place to leave us for the week. Anybody else have anything they want to add before we head out of here?
I was just gonna say, like, yeah, actually, that was a good point to bring up. Is to ask the parents. Even if the answer might be something that's totally not really deep or anything, but about how they saw us growing up and all that. But also, one of the things that I do say to my dad a lot as I'm learning to become a father, and I'll ask him sometimes too, like, how would you handle this? But also, a day by day growing appreciation of, like, holy cow, I didn't really realize what it meant, you being my father, because now I am a father. So it's like, almost every millisecond of the day, you're making a choice. All right, am I being a father right now, or am I going to be, whatever. And it's like, it's not just oh, okay, here's your little baby boy or girl, and you're a father. And all of a sudden it's like, yeah, okay, I'm a father. It's like, no, life is hard. Life is difficult. The world is difficult, and everything else that goes in there. And it's like, yeah, no, it's a constant thing of making decisions and sticking to decisions and integrity, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of days I'll just go with my dad and be like, I have a much better appreciation of what you did and why you did things, or how you acted, growing up, because it's like, I'm actually able to see it now. Whereas as a kid, it was just like, all right, he's dad, he's unstoppable, or he's at work, or he just got home. So mom's like, all right, let him just be. He's got his own honeydew list to go. And, now it's like, now I have a much better appreciation. Like, like realizing when I started driving, realizing that my dad every single day drove to work in the pitch darkness, and then every single day got the joy of staying in 2
Nuts.
Oh, he locked.
Yep. He was right on the edge of something really cool too.
Yeah. To be continued next week.
Apparently that'll be continued next week.
The
Yes.
cliffhanger. Well,
I
He's
guess
gone.
this is where we're gonna
I
have
don't know how
to
I
leave
can-
this. Oh, there you go, Vince.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I wasn't sure how to be able to take a phone call real quick. I think I totally botched it. But actually, speaking of which, though, it's actually my father. So I'm gonna be heading out, and yeah, just a deeper appreciation for what it really is to be a father, and all the different things that we have to, all the different hats we wear, all the different things we're constantly learning, and constantly reciprocated love between our children and us. So, but guys, I gotta get going. I gotta go give a call back to my dad. So it was great being on again, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Have a
Yep.
great day. All right.
All right, good, Vince. Thanks.
good. Hey,
All right.
Vince.
Thank you.
Mr. Jason.
On that note, I think that's a pretty good place to leave it for the week and head out of here. We will probably revisit this topic very shortly, as I said, with this just beginning the holiday of the Bermuda Triangle, so to speak, of the holiday season. So from all of us here at Dad's on Life, take care, everybody.
Take care, guys.
Take care.